you're actually going to start to see the value and impact of AI in 2026. I think earlier it was a lot of like hobby projects, a lot of experiments, but people were like, where's the real value? And it just takes a while for this to materialize. And I think 2026, we're going to start seeing some like notable things that people can say, oh yeah, like AI definitely has changed this in a significant way.
I think sometimes when you're so close to the AI progress, you don't realize how much improvement has already been made. I mean, we covered this off a few episodes ago, or 1 or 2 episodes ago now. We went through our 2025 predictions, and I was kind of like, we didn't see as much agentic stuff, but so much has improved in terms of research capabilities of these models. And it's like these companies are selling themselves short on how powerful they are. Hello and welcome to What Would Jesus Tech? We need to be like Jesus in 2026. We need to imitate him in a technological age, and that's what this podcast is here to help you with. My name is Andrew Noble. I am a professor at the university, not the university. I'm screwing up my introduction because I don't know my title exactly. I'm an adjunct professor. I'm an adjunct faculty member at Heritage College and Seminary. I am joined by Joel Jacob, who is a principal product manager at Splunk, also known as Cisco, and Austin, who is no longer at the TGC organization. He left on good terms, and now he is just
left on great terms,
serving in youth and young adult ministry at his church.
I've got another review for them in the works right now. Like, still on great terms with a lot of people. Do miss quite a few people over there.
But sometimes when you're called to do pastoral ministry, you just jump in and you do it. So we are a professor, a pastor, and a product manager
that's
here together.
It. That's the line.
To think about what's going to happen in 2026 and what are the implications for the Christian church and for Christians working in tech. Austin, I want to jump straight to you because you have a fun one, and I don't know what it is other than it's a fun one. So what's your prediction?
This is a fun one, and it's something that we've not really talked about too much on the show before, but I think based on some recent trends is going to be something that actually becomes more of a problem even outside the area my prediction covers. But my prediction is this. I predict that 2026 is going to be the year that AAA gaming dies.
Whoa. Big. That's not expecting
what is AAA gaming? How is that different than other video games that I'm familiar with?
So AAA gaming is kind of the highest tier of quote unquote gaming in terms of how much budget a game has, how much resources are allocated to it. This would be your flagship titles for Xbox being, like Halo or Forza, or Microsoft doesn't have very many first-party titles at the moment, or Sony, your God of War or your Spider-Mans, or things like that. And the reason why I think this is going... Sorry, my son is screaming in the background. The reason why I think this is going to be the end of AAA gaming is because, one, it's just been in a terrible state for several years now. It's become very predatory and exploitative. Some of these games routinely release in just very broken and unfinished states that are getting increasingly more and more expensive, and they take several years to get, truly done. But also last year, we saw a game come out made by a team of 33 people, and it single-handedly wiped every single game award, major game award. There were a couple of exceptions, called Claire Obscure Expedition 33. One of the most beautiful games I have ever played, and is unlike anything I've ever encountered. And it was made on a fraction of a budget compared to some of these AAA titles, made by a much smaller team. And this is where I think this is going to balloon beyond just gaming. The RAM crisis that we are seeing right now, where consumer RAM is exploding 600, 700% in prices, is going to have a direct impact on PC gaming, which is where a lot of these AAA titles are developed for. Yes, Sony makes stuff for their PS5 and Xbox. Like, there's the console side of AAA development, but usually it's PC gaming where AAA gaming is seen at its zenith. And if you can't afford RAM anymore because it's so astronomically expensive, that's going to put a cap on what your PC can run in terms of performance. Okay. So why even bother? this has been a slow moving train wreck now for several years, and I think between Clair Obscur being kind of a watershed moment for gaming as a whole right now, and then just the state of RAM prices and the inevitable RAM shortage that we're about to hit, this is going to be kind of a cascading thing where AAA gaming finally collapses under its own weight.
This seems like a serious prediction. That's not a fun one. I'm like,
it sounds. I think for gamers, this would be such a long overdue welcomed thing, because even among gamers, there is just a general disgust right now with the state of gaming. People want gaming to be in a better state than it currently is. But so long as all of the money and the resources and the manpower are going to these massive, this massive AAA industry, it kind of chokes out a lot of that. And so I see it as more of a welcome thing, even though I'm not playing as much as I used to. I'm not really playing as much video games as I once was. I see it as a positive thing, just because the state of gaming has been really, really bad as of late. I see this as a positive development.
Like, I do somewhat agree with you as like a fellow gamer who also doesn't play as much as I used to, but still kind of follows the industry. There's another game that came out called Hollow Knight.
Oh yeah, Hollow Knight. Yeah, Hollow Knight. Oh my gosh,
sold a lot on Nintendo Switch and all the platforms, and it's basically like, a 2D side-scrolling type game. So you don't need a massive studio. However, I think 2026 things will change, but 2026 is also the year that GTA 6 will finally come out.
That's
which
valid.
Is one of those AAA games, which will be, people have been waiting. It usually moves a lot of consoles in the console world.
Sure.
Like, okay, now I have a reason to buy this system. And then, like Sony will be, let's say, facing general supply chain RAM pressures, but because they're not using maybe the latest and greatest RAM chips, and they have like locked in distribution for their existing RAM that is spec'd out for, let's say, like 10 years with the RAM supplier, that won't probably be affected. So I do think like we'll still get AAA games coming out this year. It'll still be a thing. But with AI and with a bunch more things, you will get maybe more of these niche studios starting and like these niche games coming out that also do well. So,
there's this term floating around right now, and it's called friend slop. And it's not slop in the context of like AI slop, but friend slop as in a lot of the games that people want to play are games that, for one, work, and two, are cheap and affordable and, not $70-$80 like games are kind of creeping up to, but also games that are easy to play with your friends. Last night, my old esports buddies and I, we played putt-putt within Discord. Like, apparently Discord has like some like not Flash style, but that's the closest thing I could think of it, built in like mini games, and they were a ton of fun. It was the most fun we've had in a long time, and it was free. And like, I would rather play that than whip out my Xbox, ponying up an increasingly expensive subscription to Xbox Live to play a Halo Infinite, which will go down as like just one of the greatest disappointments of my entire gaming life. Like, one of those is way more fun, and one of them is free.
Yeah, this could quickly turn into a gaming podcast. Andy.
Yeah. We could go down the rabbit hole.
That's my prediction. That's my prediction.
And as Christians, we don't believe in playing video games. So
the real who you ask. The real take, and what I've wanted to do is, you may have seen like the David movie. I don't know if it's called David movie, came out over the Christmas holidays. It did really well. I think, related to gaming, that there will be a lowering of the bar in the terms of like, use AI tools, you can do more with less. So we may actually see more Christian AI games, like a David RPG game would be pretty awesome.
That existed 30 years ago, man.
It did. It did.
There were some of those things way back when.
Yeah.
But just before we move on, Austin, are you a neo-Calvinist? Is that true?
Rumors have it, yes, that is what I am.
Okay, because Abraham Kuyper, in his lectures in America, he did say that Calvinists don't believe in playing board games. And that's one of the significant aspects of,
Interesting.
and nobody talks about this. I've seen 2 different commentaries on those lectures from Kuiper because they're so influential, and nobody talks about how he was against kind of the gambling aspect of gaming, this
Yeah.
enjoyment of luck.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about writing something in relation to it, because it is true that if you really start to enjoy the luck of the draw,
Mhm.
it relates to how you navigate social media. It relates to how you do, you know, games. It's a lot of things, obviously board games, and it's anything card based. It's all about luck. This is why chess, I think Abraham Kuyper would be okay with, because
Yeah.
it's purely skill based, or Go he'd be okay with because it's purely skill based. Anyways, it's just interesting thinking about where we find our enjoyment. Do we find it in luck or providence? But this is a whole podcast that we need to do.
That would be
and we need
such a
to move
fun.
on.
That would be such a fun Patreon episode to do. We should bookmark this and do a Patreon conversation of it, because I think that would be stupidly niche and also just a blast.
Okay, prediction
Okay.
1, the death of AAA gaming. Joel, can you throw a prediction at me?
Yeah, I would say my also kind of like lighthearted or more like fun prediction will be um more AI deepfakes, right? Like we're seeing that happening. Andrew, you posted a picture of a WWJT cup on our Discord, and me and Austin were talking just before you hopped on about like I had to think for a second. I was like,
Was like,
wait, is
is
this
this a
real?
thing?
Oh,
What?
is it real or is it AI? Or you like
This
put
is
it on top
real.
of a glass? You put
This
it
is
on
a
top.
real.
It's semi-real.
I got it for Christmas from my brother. It's a What Would Jesus Tech mug. He's just a
Holy
cool brother of
smokes.
mine. And so he made 2 of these glass mugs. And I also got a new coffee grinder. So
Wow. Okay, so we
look at that
thought
fluid.
we
Is
have
it
to
real
step
or
up
is
our
it
merch
fake?
game. We have to step
Yeah.
up our merch game now. Like,
I mean, I should ask him how much it cost him, and then we could give it out
There
to
we
our
go.
top Patreon supporters. I mean, hey, if you sign up for Patreon and you ask for one, I will send you one. So
There
if you
you
sign
go,
up
yeah.
on Patreon by the end of January, then we will make it happen that you can get a very, it honestly feels amazing to drink out of. It's a very good coffee glass. But your prediction, Joel, is
Okay,
AI
so
swap versus
yeah,
reality?
like I'm seeing my parents and sister and all people around me being like, is that AI? Is it real? And it's like just now we're at the place where it's like something that's real was clearly real. I thought was fake. So in the past, I said, oh, we could do this with crypto and stuff like that. But there turns out there's an organization called CTPA, which is the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. And they've made a project where you can have something called the CR mark. I guess CR for credentials, or it's like content credentials. But so now
Verified human content or whatever?
yeah, so basically you see an image, you can like click it and it will show the chain of authenticity, which is like what they call, provenance in the art world of like who bought
yeah,
it, from when
source
to
of
when.
origin. Source of origin.
So yeah, the whole challenge with a standard like this is it has to be adopted by multiple people. The handset makers like, Canon and Leica, the people like the editorial boards of photographers. They had to put their like name shot by whoever, and then like Photoshop, where we're going to like edited and done this in Photoshop, and then finally like the browsers or the handset manufacturers. So everyone has to adopt a standard. So it does make it a big thing. However, when you actually look into it, Google joined the board of CTPA maybe a couple years ago, last year. They're starting to embed it where it's like native into Chrome, and Canon and like are already doing this. So I think we'll see probably by mid 2026 this mark be a thing where you can click and you can actually say like shot on this camera by this person, edited in Photoshop with increased color grading, and like no AI edits, or you'll see like AI edits, and that will be something that people desire to have because of all the deep fakes. So it'll actually increase adoption. I think in the past, typically Apple would have like spearheaded something like this.
Yeah.
But today they're more of a laggard. And I do think they'll probably,
Shots
adopt
fired.
it at the end of the year when they might actually have Tim Cook step down and John Turnus step in, which is another like pseudo mixed prediction.
Whoa,
End
mixed.
of
Is
the
that a
end of
legit
the year.
prediction?
Well,
That's
he's been rumored to step down
yeah.
actually for a while. A bunch of the executives are actually retiring, like these old
He
60-year-old executives.
he needs to step
Um,
down. It needs to
yeah,
happen.
yeah. And
As an,
John
as an
Turnus,
Apple fan, he's got to go.
so he'll probably be like an executive to do the, relationships with China and the U.S. government. So he'll still like be on the board. But John Turnus is the VP of hardware engineering, and they're going to try and do more like AI on edge and all of these type of things. So he's probably the person to bring the company maybe a little bit back into a product focused realm and take on that part of it.
Interesting. Okay, I think that's a fair prediction. I was thinking about making a prediction like that. I think it's almost like a trend that we're already seeing, like already at the beginning of January. We're recording this January 2nd. We're already seeing a lack of ability to trust whether it's AI or not. Real images, if the more involved you are in tech, the more you think that images that are real are AI. And the less you are involved in tech, the more you think AI images might actually be real. It's funny how that works. But yeah, it's just increasingly difficult to and the social platforms that we use. This relates to one of my predictions, is that I believe in 2026, the internet is going dead, so to speak. The death
Right.
of the internet.
Let's go.
And the truth is that this already has happened. And in
Yes.
2026, by halfway through, we'll all realize it.
Yes.
So the head of Instagram recently talked about the fact that nobody really is sharing pictures of going out for lunch with friends on Instagram anymore. It's all about creators, it's all about influencers, it's all about getting your brand out there, making money maybe on this as a side gig. It's the real conversations on Instagram are happening in DMs and direct messages in group chats, in WhatsApp groups, on Discord groups. It's the internet as a place that is this public domain where information is shared. That is gone. That has died. There is no such thing as a public space
Square
or
or
a
public square.
public square that people think about. Oh, the internet is a public square, and like the closest thing that we have is still Twitter or X. But even it,
No,
I think it's
I don't
just
agree.
not.
I don't agree
It's
with
not
that.
what it's been. Yeah, it's just
I
not
don't
what
even
it
agree with
has
that.
been.
I mean,
I think X is that's pretty public for me. Yeah.
well, it's
But go
but
ahead.
here's the thing.
Let's hear your take.
It's public, but one of the things that we know and we remind ourselves of, but I don't think we've quite wrapped our minds around it, is that like you could be on X, but your personalized algorithm be so entirely different from someone else's that like you might be using the same platform, but you're probably not going to see the same stuff I'm seeing. And so like I don't even, I don't even agree with X anymore. And as someone who used to do it professionally, I'm thankfully, mercifully not on that hellscape anymore. It really is just amazing to see how Christian X or Tech X can use the same space, but like never meaningfully interact with each other. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think the internet will increasingly be to go to a Kanye West song, like it's going to be filled with AI slop. It's just weak dopamine hits, dopamine lottery scroll wheels or whatever that don't make sense. But it's provocative and it gets the people going. That is what the internet is filled with and will increasingly be filled with provocative content that gets the people going, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
think
exactly
that's
right.
interesting. It probably, like when you talk about the majority, like if you actually say like the majority of internet usage now is used for pornography. So it's like, okay, that isn't how I typically see the internet, but if you look at the stats, that's how a lot of the internet is used. So I do agree with you that like, yeah, the majority of the internet will probably be like AI slop or provocative content. But I guess I'm one of the guys who are like living in a bubble where, Austin, to your point, I'm on X, but I'm in my like tech sphere
Space.
of X.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing like people there actually post their authentic thoughts.
Yes.
And there
say,
have
like,
been
hey,
some
this is
tech
happening.
leaders saying that they're increasingly posting on X because of the need for it. Like I forget if it was one of the people who work at Anthropic recently said, I've been seeing more conversation on X, needed to create an account to contribute to the conversation. So there is some of that going on. It's just that what I look forward to via the internet is not what the internet once was. It's the Discord
Right.
group conversations. It's our Discord group, which you can join.
You should
There's
join.
a link in the show notes. We do have a WWJT Discord group that is free to join. We do have Patreon tiers, but we have great conversations with whoever joins that Discord group. But we should continue going through these predictions. So I think we should just keep rotating around because Austin, I know you have 2 more, right?
Yeah, the second one I think is more straightforward, and I've already talked about it a couple of times, so this is not going to be a surprise to either of you. I think Apple is at the very least going to announce. I'm not going to go so far as to say that they're going to like actually release it this year, but at the very least that they are going to announce their own pair of smart glasses. And that I think is going to be the watershed moment for smart glasses and wearable tech in general. Google, I think, could make a move if they wanted to. I mean, they do have, smart, Google Glass from, 12 years ago. They were not wrong on the theory. They were just really early on it. But I don't think that would make as much waves as Apple getting into the game, because Apple and Meta have had a very fierce legal history with each other, a very fierce competitive history with each other. And so I think if Apple does this, and they've already patented some stuff, I think the liquid glass movement was entirely to build this out as a UI for smart glasses. I fully expect Apple will announce this, and when it and because of just the prevalence of iPhone adoption, smartwatch adoption, if they announce a pair of smart glasses, it's going to be so deeply integrated with the rest of the Apple product ecosystem that's going to be what moves the needle for smart glasses, because Meta's and others, they're just kind of isolated and standalone. But if you have a pair of smart glasses that now integrates with your phone and with your watch, that's going to be the game changer.
Yeah, no, I do think, I don't know that when they're going to release it, but I think that's a pretty good prediction that they announce it this year. They don't usually announce it unless you can order it within the next couple months or something.
That is true.
But Meta is going to do a dual display, which right now their latest glass has like a one display. But if you only have one, you get more eye strain and stuff. So if you have dual display, you can get like stereoscopic, augmented reality and stuff like that. So I do know that they're planning to do that. They're the front runners. I think to your point, Google probably won't release their own. They're probably going to focus more on the software stack, work with other partners like Xreal, and
they don't need to compete on this. Like Google
do
doesn't
the
need
Android
to
thing.
Yeah,
they'll do the Android thing, right? Where it's like different handset manufacturers, and then eventually, when the dust settles, they'll be like, okay, we'll have like our Pixel glass version, But yeah, Apple definitely that plus like their foldable phone. So maybe they have a bunch of big announcements still.
I do not care about foldable phones. They have never once appealed to me. Like, I do not get the hype. So I was a little surprised to see that leak, if that leak is accurate.
The interesting thing to me in this conversation about, because I know some people, they might be listening and they're like, well, who cares if it's Apple or Meta that come out with these techs? Let's just think about the implications. But the implications derive from the companies and the ethics embedded and values embedded in those companies. So there's a huge difference if Meta is the leader in the smart glasses space versus Apple being the leader in the smart glasses space, right?
100%.
And I don't think people recognize that there are actually pretty significant differences between the ethos of Apple and their orientation toward privacy. And that's why Siri sucks. Siri sucks because they've
Amen.
They didn't train on your data in the same way that all these other companies like Facebook, Meta, has been training on everything you've posted, including DMs, for a long time. So Meta does not have an ethical backbone at all.
No.
Like they are only about the money. Mark Zuckerberg has showed repeatedly, like there has been great reporting by Routers. If you're not following them, you should. I'll link to a podcast that summarizes a bunch of it in the show notes. But man, Meta has consistently been making money off of spam. And not just spam, but like aggressive, what's it called when you basically take people's money? Like it's they have a different tier for, you can be an advertiser with Meta and post on Facebook. You just pay more money if it's a scam, because they make so much money. According to internal reporting at Meta, 1 out of every $10 that Meta makes, and this is in the billions, 1 out of every $10 is because of this stream of scamming and ripping people off. And this is all reported through routers. So I'm just following as much as the routers reporting is true, and they've internally verified it with employees at Meta. So I'm cheering for Apple in the eyewear space.
I know I'm the guy who's been pretty anti-smart glasses, but that's largely because the leader of the pack here has been Meta, who is one of the most deeply untrustworthy companies you could conceive of right now. I would have a hard time saying no to a pair of Apple smart glasses. I honestly would. Like, I would have to, like, it's easy for me to say no to Meta Ray-Bans because I genuinely do not like Meta. But as an Apple guy, it's gonna be a harder a harder test of temptation.
Okay, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a good prediction.
Yeah, because you are responsible for what you build. Deuteronomy 22:8. When you build a new house, you shall make a parapet for your roof, that you may not bring the guilt of blood upon your house if anyone should fall from it. So you are responsible because people walked on the roofs back then. If you fall off the roof, well, that's not necessarily your fault for falling off the roof if the person didn't build a boundary around the roof very well. The makers of these technologies are responsible, not simply the users. And we need to follow scripture and put the blame on these companies and the people behind these companies, not simply the users, and follow a libertarian approach.
Amen.
Okay.
Yeah, this is why China has parapets on all their factories to prevent the people from jumping off.
That's
you didn't
yes,
know about that?
But
yeah, no, that makes sense.
Very different reasons.
That's another loaded. That's another loaded conversation. Okay, Joel, prediction.
I guess a word is continued geopatriotation. Patriotation?
What?
Patriation, I guess.
How do you spell that?
Explain that like I'm 5.
So geo, obviously geography, and patriation is returning to one's own country. So I think this is really when I start thinking about predictions in general. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen at a geopolitics level? Because that's going to obviously affect the companies who are making the technology significantly. So if you like take a step back and look at that, it's like, okay, yeah, we have this continuing like multipolar world. We have the US and China competing still, and that's going to continue. We have Taiwan, we have Europe and Russia and Ukraine. So all of these conflicts, we have like more war in Africa and stuff like that. Canada and US still have like tense relations on trade, right? So generally what's happening is people need to be more self-sustainable. And we might have talked about this before, but that means people are doing more sovereign investments, sovereign data centers, sovereign equipment, because it's like, hey, if something happens, they like can't be at a disadvantage. So, this is happening in military investment, right? Like Europe is like, okay, we're reinvesting in military defense spending and all that type of stuff.
Canada's investing in defense spending too. Apparently going to go up above our 2% finally of GDP.
Yeah, like and that's all because and the US is driving this like, which everyone has like mixed opinions of. I'm in support of it because like I think a lot of people have been freeloading. In any case, what this actually also means is, okay, now we have more data centers being built. So I think the chip spending is still going to continue. Those companies are still going to make money. As I mentioned earlier, we're seeing this with RAM pricing, where those companies are like, we'll make more money if we just sell AI RAM rather than consumer RAM.
Right.
But then that also like leaves a void in the market where like consumer products become more expensive. So some new company comes in and be like, well, we'll make consumer RAM. And that still takes like, 2 to 3 years and lots of billions in investments in fabs and stuff like that. I think, there's going to be just a continued investment financially, chips and everything. It's going to still be a big thing in 2026. People are saying, hey, like, maybe things will reach a head in 2026 and we'll see a little bit of a crash like in the market. But it might just be like a sideways melt up for the year. And then 2027 is where things finally hit the fan. Continued tech chip investment is definitely my prediction here with geopatriation.
Yeah, right before Christmas, Mark Carney announced a new policy that's basically a build in Canada or buy Canada policy. But if you look into the details of it, they actually allow for a foreign company, as long as a certain percent of the product is made in Canada or has Canadians a part of it, that it can still count and get these government subsidies. So it's like, once you get into the details on these policies, because you're right, there's more build in Canada or build in the US policies, and we want local data centers. But then once you get into the details, it's like, wait, is this actually working? Anyways, go ahead, Austin.
I was as the American on the
The
cast.
Texan.
The Texan, to be precise. Yeah, it's. I don't want to derail this, but like from an economic standpoint, like the filthy capitalist in me loves NAFTA for all of the wonderful things NAFTA brought us, except for the fact that I live in rural Texas, which is adjacent to the Midwest, and I see the hollowing out of, American production capabilities to China and to Taiwan and other countries in the name of cheaper prices. And so I agree with Joel. It's one of those things where, as much as I am not a fan of President Trump for many things, I do think his base instinct of like, no, we need to like build within America again is right. And I'm glad to see, to Joel's prediction, that like other nations start to realize like, yeah, like we do actually need to learn to be dependent on ourselves, not because the current global supply chain isn't working, but just because there are some perils to being at the mercy of China for all of our tech manufacturing. Like there are some serious perils to that, which I think will create more competition, which makes the filthy capitalist and me happy because competition's good. So yeah.
No, those are good additions, Austin. I think it's interesting when we think about some of the false beliefs that policymakers have had in the past. They assumed that prosperity leads to democracy, which is just not true.
Not true.
It's just not. There's just some of these false beliefs that if all of a sudden we raise all these countries up across the world and make them prosperous, then they'll become democratic and for the people and all this stuff. And that's just not the case. It's funny. I've had a couple of times where I've spoken on technology at various churches, and some of these churches have conservatives in them who listen to certain media, and they're like, well, do you think the one world government is coming through technology? And it's like, that the trajectory, as per Joel's point, is in the opposite direction right now.
I agree.
Technology is leading us away from a one world government,
yes,
not toward it.
Yes.
That's the irony. And so it's like, well, we don't actually have to worry about that. And do you actually think that's biblical, this whole like one world government? Like there's multiple antichrists according to First John, not just one. Like let's just kind of actually look at scripture instead of jumping to conclusions here. But that's a whole other podcast episode. And come at me in the YouTube comments, because I know we have some people on YouTube who might disagree with me on that. So okay, defend it biblically.
No, I'll build actually on that in my last prediction. So just hold tight.
Well, do you want to just jump in now? What's your?
Let's build the suspense. Andrew, what's yours?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have two more predictions. One is a super short one, but the other one that I don't think you're expecting coming from me is that in 2026, delivery drones will have their Waymo moment. All right. So delivery drones are far more prevalent than we realize right now. And the comparison to Waymo is intentional. Waymo is a car company that's operating in California right now, and they're doing tons of self-driving. You can be in California. You can, instead of asking for a cab or an Uber, you can ask for a Waymo to pick you up. There is no physical human being in the car, and it drives you from point A to point B. This can happen today. There are millions of these things happening, not every day, but there's a lot of those rides happening, and they're expanding throughout the world, including in Europe. And a lot of people don't realize it, but that is already the case today. And I think delivery drones are going to be like that in 2026. Wing is one organization. They've already completed 450,000 deliveries. iTrex, they've completed over 200,000 deliveries. And Zipline, they're another one of these delivery drone companies. They have completed 1.4 million deliveries total as of March 2025. So that's old data, but you can see that like we're already past 1 million deliveries already. I predict that by the end of 2026, we'll be at beyond 10 million deliveries completed. And that's probably a conservative estimate. but this is already happening. And yes, there are negative side effects to these buzzing drones that fly and drop Amazon packages on your front door.
Please tell me.
Yeah,
Please tell me y'all are watching Pluribus or have watched Pluribus.
No, I'm sorry. Don't even know what that is. Sorry.
So-
you guys in your video game
Oh.
and cultural references, I'm just going to be the professor here who's out of
And I
Pluribus-
feel like I wasted my time watching it, but it's like because of the societal like pull it has, I'm like, okay, I need to know, but it's too slow for me, Austin. Okay, go on. Let's hear your
Oh
take.
boy, that's a take. Oh my gosh. But there's a sequence in Pluribus. It was one of the teaser trailers that Apple put out for it, and it's of a delivery drone trying to pick up the trash of this main character and haul it away. And I remember seeing that thinking like, man, they're giving a lot of attention to this drone. Like it's kind of like a comedic moment, like it's meant to be kind of a dark comedy.
Pizza on the roof, if you know Breaking Bad.
Pizza on the roof. Yeah, pizza on the roof. Like, but no, I think you're right, Andrew. And as someone who lives in like a very windy but nonetheless very flat part of the country, like I'm honestly surprised I don't see more of them. Because you're right, like it is popping up just all over the place, and I don't know how I feel about it, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I'm more against it, but I have not thought through it in detail. It's something where the noise, there's something about the noise, even though it's only 50 to 60 decibels, which is still pretty loud. That's like
still
a
loud.
washing
That's loud.
machine or dishwasher. There's something about the way the sound hits your ear that because of the
like
vibration
bees.
of it, yeah, it's like bees. It like creates a response in your system. And
Interesting.
I think noise pollution is incredibly underrated as a problem in
Oh
society.
yes.
It's one of the reasons why people don't enjoy walking around in cities. You would enjoy walking around in cities way more if there's no cars. And this is why you enjoy going to amusement parks. You're like, oh, that's a nice thing to do. Yeah, because you're walking around in a quiet environment. This is why people enjoy golf courses, because you walk around in a quiet environment.
Amen.
This is why you enjoy university. You're like, oh, it was so nice when I was in university. You didn't own a car in first year college. No, you just walked around and you enjoyed it because we were made to walk. The speed of Jesus is the speed that we were made to walk as well. 3 miles per hour is the speed of God. And that should be our speed as well in society. And sometimes we're a little too focused on efficiency, and we should be a little bit more happy to enjoy the scenery and God's creation and human creation around us. And we can't enjoy it when there's buzzing in our ears.
I mean, it's a good prediction. I think I don't know if you noticed, it's pretty pertinent because I think at the end of December, the U.S. did a ban on DJI drones, which is like the famous
Mhm.
Chinese one, which really is like, hey, like they're going to want, locally made drones. And then once you have that, there's less of a fear of like, oh, this is like a threat vector for a foreign actor. It's like, this is local infrastructure. Now we can actually deploy it more widely. So I do think like, if you actually look to China, they don't have that concern because they are Chinese made and the government probably has access to all of them. So they are actually like really widely used already in China for food delivery and stuff like that. So I do think like we're kind of behind in that sense, and we'll probably will catch up. So yeah, not something I expected, but I do agree with that one.
All right. Final predictions. Do each one of us have one more?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so do I. So Austin, you go first.
Yeah, this one's definitely the most serious of the three. I think we will see in 2026 the beginning of violent responses to data centers and those who are involved in them as as big tech continues to colonize. And I actually do use that word very deliberately. Small rural communities for their land, for their water, for their electricity, that will eventually turn to bloodshed. I'm actually fairly convinced that's going to happen this year. And it may not happen in a big scale. Like, I don't think it's going to happen to where like it's a watershed culturally defining moment, but I think we will begin to see small scale. I've seen it in Instagram comments. I've seen it in and various things, people starting to meaningfully suggest violent action as like the last resort to keeping these data centers from being built. And I think that will actually materialize at some point.
Oh yeah, people
Hmm.
attack Waymos. They like have you seen
Yeah.
in California, obviously very like left-leaning place. There are a lot of people who
Yes.
are like, kill the
Yes.
Waymos
It will
and
not,
stuff
and
like
it will
that.
not be, no, it will not be a strictly right wing thing. Like this is actually something that I think, weirdly enough, the right and the left are actually going to unite around, and we might see it in different ways. The left tends to approach situations like that in a little bit more organized way. But this is such a there's such a deep bipartisan hatred for how this process is unfolding. It's if you keep up with how AI data centers are being built, there's a lot of secrecy, there's a lot of underhanded tactics, there's a lot of just genuine coercion and manipulation, and in some cases, just outright steamrolling of democratic process. Um, that I think people have a right to be angry about, and eventually, that anger I do think is going to turn into multiple expressions of violence that'll look differently in your small town compared to maybe a more liberal metropolitan area, but like it's going to happen.
Hmm. So this, like, it gives a ton of callbacks to the Luddite movement,
That's
19th
exactly right.
century
Yep.
19th century movement. English textile workers, they opposed certain types of automated machinery due to
Mhm.
concerns of worker pay and output quality. And it's like it sucked to work in those factories. It really did. There's this legendary weaver. I'm pulling this information from Wikipedia. His name was Ned Ludd.
Mhm.
And so that's actually Luddites is after him. Just whatever. And actually, the school that I go to, the University of Nottingham, that's where it began. That's where the Luddite movement began. So
Wow,
maybe
that's wild.
I will be part of this, or maybe Nottingham will have a uprising again. But yeah, it spread across Britain, and it says here that mill and factory owners took to shooting protesters, and eventually the movement was suppressed by legal and military force, which
Yes.
included execution and penal transportation of accused and convicted Luddites. So
Yeah.
this is where you use the phrase bloodshed, and that's what the Luddites became. It's interesting how we use the word Luddite as such a
It's
derogatory term.
right.
Well, I'm not a Luddite. I
Yeah,
still
I'm
believe
not
in
a
some use of tech,
right.
but it's they were destroying. They took to action.
They
They
were
destroyed
arsonists. They were
machines.
arsonists.
Yeah, they did that kind of thing, but it's then they were, yeah, violently attacked. And so I think we should have some sympathy for them. But it's, yeah, that's a kind of a scary prediction, Austin.
Yeah, it follows the research and work that I've done on polarization in the West
Mhm.
generally, but America specifically. And I really do think this is going to be like a really crystal clear inflection point for a lot of people because it is. I mean, as someone whose dad is having to deal with this in his church in a small rural town where Google is building a data center, and one of the members of his church who are very wealthy, prosperous landowners are involved in this. I thought the pandemic was divisive. Uh, I've never seen the division that I've seen this issue create.
Hmm.
It's far beyond everything that I've worked on for the past several years, and it's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's an interesting prediction, and I'm just kind of processing it as I think about, where I fall. I do agree. Like, okay, like tech is going to continue to, with the demand, with the
Hmm.
money on the playing field, they're going to be like, yeah, let's build it. We got to compete. We got to do this faster than the other guy. We're in this big AI race, right? So definitely the incentive is there, and I do think, especially as more and more people get displaced with jobs and stuff, there will be like a sentiment brewing. And there's also like, socialist movement and social uprising with like,
Right.
Mamdani and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it will be a precarious moment, I guess, to see if tech finds itself alienated or if it does kind of like thread the needle to do things in a way where people are more accepting rather than like, pushing on it. So yeah, I don't really know.
I don't know either, and I expect that in some places it will go just fine, and you'll hear about you'll hear about some of the outliers more often than not. Like not every data center is being met with on not every data center is being met with an hostile welcome, although a good number of them are. But a lot of it is mostly a reaction to the process, and that's where I would stress it's the process more so than the data center itself that's going to create. It's how these things are being built, and how big tech is kind of strong arming local governments, local communities, uh, into getting what they want, at the expense of the will of the people that lived there, expressed as they have a right to express it. That I think is going to be the thing that drives the animus more than the data centers themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're seeing
Like
some
the,
success, like some rural communities
Yes.
have successfully pushed back, and I think that will give rise to more, organizations. There's a website that's like, here's how to stop data centers in your
Yep.
town. Like
Yep.
there is kind of a movement toward this. In the same way in Ontario, there's always been debates about not only airplane or airports. That's always been debated where they can be. I grew up near Pickering, and there was a talk of let's add an airport here, and then you had all these signs against it, and it never happened. And then similarly, wind turbines, a bunch of farmers are against wind turbines,
Hmm.
even though in southern Ontario near the lakes it'd be great to build them. And so some places they have them, some places they don't. It's a constant, like, are we trying to conserve something? It brings up Chesterton's fence for me.
Yep.
It's like,
That's a great. Yep.
so Chesterton's fence is, he describes like, if there's a fence that's there, do you get rid of it if you don't know the purpose of it? And as soon as you are willing to get rid of something without first understanding the purpose of it, getting rid of a fence, then you've done something wrong. We need to question why the fence was there in the first place. Why were these communities built in such a way in the first place? And by just introducing this new thing into the habitat of these data centers, yeah, it's doing something to the habitat in terms of water supply, maybe not so much, but definitely electricity use. And yeah, it's an ecological factor that we need to consider.
Yeah,
yeah. And
I
I,
I would love to be wrong on this. Like this is out of all of them. Like if this ends up not materializing, you're not going to get any complaints out of me. But I'm fairly convinced this will happen.
yeah. And it's interesting. Like if you look at the details on data center build out, like actually trades are doing quite well. Like electricians' pays have been going up quite a bit. And even the US, I think, announced a new immigration path to Canadian electricians to be streamlined into America because there's such a shortage, right? So there are people who are benefiting and they pick the data centers where there are low energy costs, right? So it's not like anywhere in the middle of nowhere. It's
Hmm.
like, hey, do you have a natural resource? Do you have a nuclear plant nearby? Do you have hydro? So yeah, it's I'm jury's out for me. I think we probably won't get to bloodshed. So I will take the other side,
All
Austin,
right.
and hopefully
I
I'm right.
sincerely hope you are right. I genuinely and sincerely hope you are right. I will be happy if at this time next year or at the end of the year we're reviewing our predictions. I get to say I was wrong on this.
Okay, so I'll segue into my last prediction, but it does, build on that. I guess no one really talked about the AI race going on with, Gemini and ChatGPT and
Yeah.
Claude. So I did save one, maybe it's like a an all over one. So I think that race is gonna keep continuing. I think one of the big things that the industry that's seeing probably one of the most change is coding, software and I think Claude with 4.5 is like, one of the leading ones. I think everyone's looking at, hey, will they come out with a Claude 5? They might come out with 4.6, 4.7 as like a test run for 5 early this year. So maybe in June you get Claude 5. What does that mean? It's just like you've been seeing in, let's say, tech Twitter, a lot of people, developers, famous developers, are like, I feel like I can't keep up with the technological change. Something that we said 3 months ago is like, AI can't do that. Now you're like, well, actually, the newest one can. And if you use these tools, it can, right? So it's just like so fast that people are feeling further and further behind on what it means to be a good developer. It's not necessarily like writing the algorithms. It might actually be like, how do you orchestrate the agents? How do you orchestrate the technology? And that like role shift is changing. So that industry is experiencing, massive change and people need to adapt. And I think just in general, um, AI is going to have a big impact on workforces in different industries, like Cybercab, which is Tesla's, no steering wheel car, has been spotted in Austin doing some drives on the road, and that's using like a branch of Tesla's full self-driving, but it's not using the supervised branch, it's using unsupervised. And the unsupervised branch is the same one that they're testing Optimus robots. And they say in also 2026 you'll get Optimus, but they're not going to come into your home. They're going to put them into their factories first. But now you're
Mhm.
going to get like autonomous vehicles, like you said, Waymo, but you're going to get Cybercab, which is also much cheaper to produce. Not only because they don't have lidar like Waymo, but they're just using cameras, but also because they're doing a completely different manufacturing method called unboxed. So they're actually getting rid of the assembly line, instead of like having a shell that like you have a shell and people have to go in and out of the car to put all the parts, and the shell's always in the way. They just like take all the internals. They like can robots can go 360 around it, and at the very end they put the giga castings together, like more like how you
Hmm.
build like a toy car or electronics.
Yeah.
So they can like do it cheaper, increase the throughput. So now like these robots, these self-driving vehicles are like low cost, and the cost of using them is also going to then be lower. So in many industries, we're gonna start seeing the final, maybe I'll like summarize it this way. You're actually gonna start to see the value and impact of AI in 2026. I think earlier was a lot of like hobby projects, a lot of experiments, but people were like, where's the real value? And it just
Hmm.
takes a while for this to materialize. I think 2026, we're gonna start seeing some like notable things that people can say, oh yeah, like AI definitely has change this in a significant way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's
I
good.
think sometimes when you're so close to the AI progress, you don't realize how much improvement has already been made. I mean, we covered this off a few episodes ago, or one or two episodes ago now. We went through our 2025 predictions, and I was kind of like, we didn't see as much agentic stuff, but so much has improved in terms of research capabilities of these models. And I think some people just aren't aware of it. Ethan Malloch recently talked about this, is that the average user goes to Gemini or ChatGPT and they're not aware they're using a bad model. And so it
Right.
doesn't give a good
Right.
enough answer.
Right.
And they don't know that just turning on reasoning or turning on a better model is going to give such a better answer. And it's like these companies are selling themselves short on how
Yeah.
powerful they are. Now, part of that is, I think, because they're getting distracted by some of the same traps that social media had of like hooking people in with stupid little content. Like you sign into ChatGPT now, and it's such a stupid name, by the way. Anyways, and they have they have this like AI slop recommendation. It's like, make videos of yourself related to Christmas, make this related to yourself. And it's like, no, we don't need that stuff. Like, we want productivity. We want you to figure out how to cure cancer and all this kind of stuff. There's great potential for AI, and these companies are getting distracted. And they even admit to it too, that they end up using resources toward some of this new stuff instead of going more deep into their development.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's really
Okay.
good.
So I am currently running with Opus 4.5 from Claude, a detailed analysis of our 9 predictions. So it's in progress right now. I'm at 11 steps that it's gone through because I asked it to do some good research on each one of the 9. It's currently creating a JavaScript file to generate a Word document, because that's what Claude can do. I literally take my notes for my classes, and I don't know if I can publicly say this, but I'm going to anyways. And I put it into Claude and I output a PowerPoint, and it's done. Like, it's 95% of the way
Sick.
there.
Sick.
And all I need to do is add some little edits, but I can take notes that are 4 pages long, and those notes will be perfectly almost turned into a PowerPoint presentation, and I can just manually edit from there. The amount of time that saves is incredible. My last prediction, though, I realize that I haven't shared my last one.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I
my
thought this was your last one. Okay. Go on.
No, I was just giving time for Opus to do its thing. My last prediction, it's kind of a weird small one, but I think there will be a game-changing US AI policy that will drop in late 2026, and it will have a religious edge to it. So essentially, we have seen an AI policy in Europe, and that kind of, stifles in innovation, you could argue, and it's definitely put some guardrails. It didn't do that much, but what we're hearing from JD Vance and others is a concern that these AI models are more woke in nature. They're definitely more Democratic than Republican. There's benchmarks that assess for this. It's objectively true.
Yes.
They are
yes,
more likely
absolutely.
to give you a left-leaning response than a right-leaning response, according to the American political spectrum. And we know that the U.S. government is concerned about this. They've created a task force. They're already in progress doing this. But I think the New York Times recently reported the whole piece wasn't about this, but made note of the Gospel Coalition's AI benchmark, and made note that, these tools are not giving responses that are consistent with Christian theology. And this is raising the attention of US diplomats and that sort of thing. And so I do think we're going to see some sort of policy that will have a religious edge to it that is going to be enforced. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm a little nervous of what it will look like, but I'm hoping to participate and do what I can to support the TGC team. I'm helping them on the next iteration of their benchmark.
Nice.
So I already helped with a little bit with the first one, but now I've drafted 100 questions for Michael related to ethics. So, there's good progress being made on that.
We should have him back on to give an update on how that report's going and what he's seen from that. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I do think that it'll happen. I wonder how overt that religious edge will be. I think you'll get alignment with, let's say, the tech right, who will then kind of enforce it in these companies. If it's a little bit more about freedoms and kind of back to the Constitution and stuff in general, then I think freedom of religion, and it kind of goes in that angle, and also not pushing other beliefs onto users, and you go that way. I think there's definitely a chance of that being a policy that gets endorsed without getting stuck in a quagmire of the diplomatic system, because you got to win over the people who are non-religious to actually pass a ruling. So that would be the way to do it. So that's interesting. And I didn't actually, I just reminded me, I didn't talk about the one world order, but I was going to say that you guys are saying it's pushing us into a multipolar world. And my wife is often saying oh, we're not going to get through robots. She's going to come before then. It's not going to happen. But I'm very convinced that we are going to live in a place with robots, with all of these things accelerating. And then now the question is, will these robots also have AIs that are, leaning a specific direction or not? So it's crazy.
Yeah, but robots probably aren't coming at a mass scale in 2026. I think by 2030, we're going to see robots in maybe 1% of homes, but that's 2030.
Maybe. I mean, you're going to see a mass scale in factories and stuff in 2026 is what you'll see. And then you'll see Neo in a few homes. But 2027, 2028, I don't know. Maybe not 1%, but yeah.
Okay, well, here's what Opus Claude thinks about our predictions. So clearly we all had some ones that they think are likely, some that they don't. Let's just go through them, recap. So for me, I predicted delivery drones have their Waymo moment, likelihood 70%, growing awareness of the dead internet, 85%. So Claude thinks that's very likely because we're already in the dead internet.
We're already there. Yeah, we're already there.
But there's just not an awareness of it. There's people that just are oblivious to it.
I don't think the average person's going to care is the thing. I don't think the average addicted social media user is going to give two craps about dead internet as a thing.
Right. Then you have game-changing US AI policy, likelihood 40%. So he's just I did it anthropomorphic. It gave the analysis of only 40%. Let's go to Austin's death of AAA Gaming, 35%. Wow. Now, they did give evidence supporting over 12,000 layoffs, that sort of thing. Counterpoint is GTA, as Joel said. So Yeah, the market isn't dying. It's projected to exceed 200 billion. Claude's
Okay.
like, I don't know, Austin.
But hold on. It says the issue is consolidation and unsustainability at the top, which is AAA gaming. Like, that's exactly what I'm predicting here. That's exactly what I'm saying is going to happen here.
Okay, well, maybe Claude gets it wrong there. Okay, the interesting, Apple launches smart glasses in 2026, likelihood 65%. Like, Claude doesn't really know. It's not as confident as you. Assessment, moderate high probability for announcement, lower for shipping. Apple may reveal the product or a fall event, but actual availability could slip into 2027.
Because that's what happened with the Vision Pro, right? Like with the Vision Pro, like that broke the norm. They announced it, and then wasn't it like 5 or 6 months before it actually shipped?
Yeah, it actually got to people. But
and then violent uprising against data centers. Austin's other prediction, only 25%. Which hopefully that's true.
Bold takes.
Would be happy to be wrong.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, low probability for violence specifically. I think that underestimates how much violence there's been in protests over the last 5 years. Like,
yeah.
So there's been a lot of violence in protests in the United States in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And anyways, then Joel's prediction, only 45% likelihood on click to verify images for AI detection. I was a little bit like, I don't know. It depends how big of the scale you're thinking, Joel, right?
So I'm trying to see what they said about C2PA and stuff like that. But yeah.
Moderate probability. The technology exists, but widespread consumer-facing implementation on major platforms is uncertain. More likely niche applications rather than ubiquitous click-to-verify buttons on social feeds. I don't know. But continued geopatriation, the highest likelihood. Claude's like, I'm with you, Joel. This isn't a bold take at all. It's just like, of course this is happening. We're going to see more and more localization. Claude 5 in June 2026. Joel predicted that. I specifically wrote into Claude that it would be 2020 or in June. And 60% likelihood. So moderate to high probability. It's definitely on pace. June specifically is uncertain. Could be earlier, apparently. What do you think about that, Joel?
I think they'll do a test run. They'll do a test run with 4.7 or something.
The predictions range from near certainties to unlikely. The strongest predictions identify trends already underway. The weakest overstate likely intensity. Theological note. Good old Claude wanted to give a theological note. Several predictions touch upon themes relevant to your dissertation work. The dead internet as a form of digital idolatry. Endless scroll as false transcendence. Tech sovereignty as nations pursuing technological salvation. And the Silicon Valley messianism.
Yeah, that's right.
Messiah-ness of Vance references. The religious dimensions of these technological shifts may be more pervasive than explicit policy language would suggest. All right. Well, thanks, Claude, for contributing to this conversation.
It's interesting where it has that take because it knows you, quote unquote, knows.
Yeah.
Well, I've put into Claude, I'm like, I am doing a PhD and I'm doing it on these
and it remembers
things.
That, right?
Well, yeah, I've put it into it's with Claude, you can program it in a few different ways. And so I've introduced that because if I'm like, okay, give me a breakdown of Alistair McIntyre's virtue ethics, I don't mind it connecting the dots at the bottom.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways. Cool. So, yeah, this has been a very interesting episode. We're over an hour because we just couldn't help ourselves. And this will be a fun one to recap on, especially to see not only if we were right, but whether Claude was right. It's an assessment of AI. Maybe I should do the same prompt to I'll give it to Gemini and I'll give it to ChatGPT. And then at the end of the year, we will see not only which of us were correct, but which of the AIs accurately either went with us or against us. Whether or not they're over or under 50%. So follow along with us, subscribe. You can support us. We do have costs associated with running this podcast. And now's a time to get a free book. If you sign up within the next couple months, we will send you a free book if you sign up for the investor tier. And if you sign up for the angel investor tier, you'll get 2 free books. Well, I mean free, you're signing up to support us, and so the costs come out of that. But we want to encourage people to read. Reading is one of the best things you can do to help your brain in a digital age. So we do give you a physical book in order to read, not a digital copy, a physical copy. And we appreciate you learning along with us. Feel free to send us an email with ideas of what you think we should cover. It's funny, I just noticed that Claude misspelled WWJT. Maybe I did that too. But you can send us an email, whatwouldjesustech@gmail.com, or go to our website, whatwouldjesustech.com. And thanks for listening on. Use tech, find rest, glorify God. Bye now.
See ya.
Bye.